Sarah Bennett never imagined life could be this cruel. By 32, she had clawed her way up the corporate ladder in New York City's ruthless marketing world. She was sharp, ambitious, and meticulously organized, with the kind of resume that made her colleagues envious. But at home, she felt like a ghost. Mark, her husband of 7 years, had been charming in the early days, until the honeymoon faded and the true man emerged, lazy, narcissistic, and contemptuous of her dreams. He mocked her ambitions, ignored her accolades, and secretly siphoned money from her joint accounts to fund a lifestyle he refused to work for. For years, Sarah had silently endured, telling herself she could survive. Until the day everything changed, the morning started with a call she would never forget. Her estranged father, Gerald Bennett, a tech mogul who had built one of the largest AI firms in the country, had died in a suspicious plane crash. Sarah had not spoken to him in over a decade. Their relationship had frayed after she rejected his cold, controlling ways and insisted on forging her own career. While grief should have filled her, it was tempered by years of suppressed anger and regret. Mark, however, had no patience for her mourning. "Sarah," he barked as she stumbled into the bedroom, still in her nightdress, "we're hosting the investors tonight. You need to impress them. No tears, no drama. Just smiles, drinks, and charm." She froze. "Mark, my father just—" "I don't care," he snapped. "This party could make or break our financial future. Now get dressed." And just like that, Sarah was forced into a ballroom, shaking hands, pouring champagne, and pretending the world wasn't crumbling around her. The party was a glittering nightmare. Investors in tailored suits mingled under crystal chandeliers, laughing and plotting deals over silver trays of hors d'oeuvres. Sarah moved with grace, all the while internally seething at Mark's hypocrisy. He strutted around, boasting, taking credit for her career successes, while his shady friends whispered about opportunities that smelled of greed. But Sarah wasn't completely invisible. She wore a subtle black dress, her hair pulled back to accentuate her quiet elegance, and on her finger rested a gold ring she had inherited from her father, an old family piece, unpolished but unmistakable. Across the room, a tall, sharp-suited man's eyes caught the glint. "Excuse me," he said, approaching her, "that ring, it belonged to Gerald Bennett, didn't it?" Sarah's heart skipped. "Yes," she replied cautiously, "it was my father's." "I'm Ethan Cole," the man said, extending a hand. "I was your father's partner. He trusted me with many things, including the guardianship of his will. I've been waiting to find you." Ethan explained that Gerald had left Sarah as the sole heir to his $500 million empire, a series of tech startups, patents, and private investments. The catch: the will was designed to protect her from opportunists like Mark, who had been secretly draining her savings. "You're the rightful owner of everything your father built," Ethan said, handing her a sleek folder. "And I believe it's time you knew the truth." Sarah's pulse raced. She had suspected Mark of embezzlement but lacked concrete proof. She had endured so many lies, so much manipulation, that the sheer weight of validation almost made her see why as Sarah processed the revelation, a new thought emerged: the investors. They were oblivious to the drama but eager to close shady deals. Mark, laughing, took the mic to toast the night. "Here's to fortune, connections, and, of course, my brilliant wife, Sarah," he said, smirking, eyes on the crowd. Sarah stepped forward, holding Ethan's folder. "Actually," she said, voice steady but sharp, "I believe we need to clarify a few things." Gasps echoed as she opened the folder and presented irrefutable evidence: bank transfers, hidden accounts, forged invoices. Mark's scheme had been laid bare for everyone to see. The investors froze. Mark's face paled. Ethan spoke calmly: "Sarah Bennett is the sole heir of Gerald Bennett's empire. And anyone attempting to defraud her will face legal consequences, including you, Mr. Mark Davis." Within minutes, the New York Police Department and federal investigators, who Ethan had discreetly alerted, arrived to detain Mark for fraud. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the man who had belittled and exploited Sarah was led out in handcuffs. In the days that followed, Sarah assumed control of her father's empire. Her first actions were deliberate: she fired corrupt managers, reorganized failing divisions, and set new standards for integrity and innovation. But she didn't stop there. Sarah turned the family mansion, once a symbol of Mark's greed, into a hub for women entrepreneurs. Tech startups, mentorship programs, and networking events blossomed within its walls. She hosted workshops, panels, and pitch competitions, ensuring that other women could achieve success without being exploited. The media dubbed her the Wall Street Phoenix, a woman who rose from betrayal and grief to power and purpose. Sarah didn't just reclaim financial power, she reclaimed her life. She invested in her health, traveling to quiet retreats, reading voraciously, and cultivating friendships that were honest and supportive. She avoided romantic entanglements until she met a kind, grounded entrepreneur, Daniel Reyes, who treated her as an equal. Their connection was built on mutual respect, laughter, and shared ambition. For the first time in years, Sarah slept without fear, laughed without restraint, and dreamed without limits. By the end of the first year, Sarah had rebranded her father's companies under a new vision, one that combined technological innovation with ethical responsibility. The mansion was buzzing with energy, creativity, and mentorship. Mark's name faded from headlines. His schemes were a lesson, not a shadow. And Sarah understood, betrayal and greed could not contain her spirit. Bloodlines, deceit, and arrogance could not stop her. Sarah Bennett, once trapped in a toxic marriage, was now the embodiment of resilience, power, and vision. She was New York's rising phoenix, and nothing could ever bring her down again. The Manhattan skyline glowed against the dusk. Sarah stood on her office balcony, champagne in hand. She smiled, finally at peace. Some ashes burn brighter than any flame, and I am living proof. Months after Mark's arrest, Sarah walked through the once stuffy family mansion, now alive with energy and ambition. The grand hall had been transformed into a co-working hub, filled with bright young women pitching ideas, coding apps, and hosting workshops. Her father's legacy had been preserved, but she had made it her own. Sarah spent mornings in board meetings, strategizing expansions, and mentoring women executives. Afternoons were for innovation, reviewing startup pitches, analyzing AI tech, and ensuring ethical business practices were woven into every decision. By night, the mansion glowed with laughter and collaboration. Months later, Sarah Bennett stood on the balcony of her Manhattan office, the city lights reflecting off her father's rebuilt empire. The mansion had become a hub for women entrepreneurs, buzzing with ideas, mentorship, and empowerment programs. Young innovators laughed and strategized inside, unaware of the toxic shadow that had once loomed over the Bennett legacy. Mark's arrest and public humiliation were distant memories. Sarah had reclaimed not just the empire,